Hello everyone. This is Ivo from EVQuo, and I am today with Alice DeCourcy. Alice is a fractional CMO who has a lot of experience in scale ups, especially supporting companies to grow in all this fast growing environment. She has supported companies to go from around £3 million to even £85 million of revenue. And also, she is the author of the first diary of a first time CMO, with a lot of tips for the people starting as CMOs with very practical tips. And also, we can see Alice a lot in LinkedIn, sharing her tips and sharing her experience of being a CMO, always focused on the growth and focusing on scaling the demand generation teams. So we are happy today to come with Alice. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation, Alice.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, excited to talk about this topic. And thank you for the kind intro.
Nice. So today, in fact, we are going to talk about revenue growth. I think it's a topic that we as Ivico see more and more in marketing. Marketing is focusing on, in fact, the generation of the revenue and connecting all their campaigns. That's why also we see a lot of projects related with attribution, because companies don't want to understand how many MQLs marketers generate, but they really want to understand how much revenue marketing, in fact, is generating. So today we are going to cover this topic. What are the strategies? What are the actions that marketers need to focus in order to generate the revenue and contribute to the revenue? So I will start first with connecting with this point of the shift of the focus on marketers. What do you think, Alice, that should be the changes, the key changes that marketers should do in this year in order to really generate revenue and not just focus on pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably sounds obvious, but the most important thing is ensuring that marketing is aligned to revenue and that everyone in the organization understands that it is their role, like just as much as it is sales' role, to increase the ARR of the business. And that means like every part of your marketing organization needs to understand how their specific role and their function can help drive revenue outcomes. And that should be the north guiding star for everything they're thinking about when it comes to prioritization of tasks, places to put their focus and time, and also dollars that they're spending. And I think that shift, it might sound simple, but when you start like unraveling it and unwinding it, can be there's a very different mentality and way of thinking. But if you can get every role and every individual within the organization to think that way, then you really do start to become that kind of revenue driving function.
Mhm. And there is where the attribution reporting takes more importance, right? Because many times it's complicated to understand. For example, if I launch a campaign today, what is the contribution that this campaign is going to do in the following 6 months, or depending on the sales cycle that the company has. So it's where I need to understand what is the direct impact of marketing, but also what is the parts where marketing have helped to accelerate the process of converting an opportunity, right?
Definitely, the more visibility you have into the impact of like every single initiative that you're running, it first of all helps you understand where to invest your next hour and your next dollar, but it also helps you report that back like upwards into the board, into the C-suite, also into sales, and ultimately it means that you're driving towards the right outcomes. And I know that a lot of teams find the revenue shift difficult because they are flying blind when it comes to that aspect of kind of an attribution perspective. They're relying on kind of outdated last touch attribution models, which don't give you a very clear picture of the real impact of all of the activity that you're doing. So yeah, getting clarity around attribution, getting better visibility into the full journey of your customer and prospects, because the one thing you will find out and know is there are many, many touch points. It's not first, last, or even just a middle touch
Definitely.
point. It will be tens of touch points, if not 100, sometimes depending on the size of the account. And then getting visibility into that is going to be crucial if you really do want to start focusing on driving repeatable revenue.
Exactly. And something that we can also see connected to this point of the focus of marketers is that marketers are more and more involved on the sales velocity. So understanding, for example, from the moment that a record requests a demo, for example, until it's treated by a salesperson or it's called by a salesperson, we see in the projects that we handle that this is a key point. Like, okay, should we, if the record is not called, should we reassign them or should we send them an automated communication? Should we go for AI outreach? So also I see very clearly this connection between marketing and sales in the sense that it's not only sales responsibility, but it's also marketing responsibility to provide the right information to the sales so that it's easy for a sales team also to handle very quickly the different requests or the different new records that go to the sales team.
Definitely. I think that's like, I'll come on to this a bit later. I think we'll talk about it a bit more, but within the plumbing, that's almost like the system. There's always a huge amount of opportunity for marketing to have a positive impact on the conversion rates that you get from the leads that ultimately you're bringing in, and the ability to drive revenue from them. And I think that people do overlook that as like a lever for growth, which ultimately often doesn't come at a huge cost in terms of being able to optimize. It's just a bit about focused work and like going deep into that customer journey, thinking through like the priorities and the processes that you want to run, and also testing and iterating it a lot. And that is a joined up activity between marketing, ops, and sales. And it's crucial, really, in terms of getting to make sure you're not wasting money and resource when you spend so long trying to generate those leads and get people to hand raise. You obviously therefore want to make sure you're efficiently optimizing the way in which you capture that and bring those into the
For,
pipeline.
for sure. For sure. And talking about the whole customer journey, where do you often see that this system breaks? Because many times also the reason why we don't support the revenue as marketers many times is related to something breaking in the whole system. And so it's there. So many times it's not a matter of getting more records entering the database, but just fixing these mistakes or these bugs on the system. Where do you often see that this system breaks?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's when it becomes siloed. So I was thinking about this a lot. And when I think about like operations, for example, and the role they play within like the go-to-market organization, they're the glue between sales and marketing. And I think where sometimes that kind of process starts to break down is if the RevOps organization is siloed. And I'm also, but at the same time, I'm a very big advocate that RevOps should be an independent function of both sales and marketing. So I've always advocated that I want it to be completely unbiased. And the reason for this is I think that it then is a forcing function for intense, like cross-functional collaboration and prioritization of the time and resources across both marketing and sales. And I think when I think back to kind of Cognism and as we got more complex systems and structures in place, where things started to break was when RevOps felt more accountable to sales than marketing. And therefore, like collaboration broke down, alignment was harder, and resourcing became more difficult and uneven. So that's why I really like it to be this kind of independent glue type function that forces like alignment. It means that they have zero bias, and ultimately makes sure that sales and marketing are being served and come to the table across like any process or workflow. And nothing is built kind of in isolation, because when stuff starts being built in isolation for this is for sales, and before long someone's from marketing has forgot to be brought in, and you have this thing built and they're not aware of it, and actually they haven't thought through all of the downstream impacts. That's when it becomes like very dangerous and things start to break.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that's connected to what you mentioned at the beginning, that also the operations team has to be focused on the revenue goals and the growth goals. So at the end, because many times what could happen in some companies, that the revenue operations, marketing operations, sales operations is just a team fixing things, but it has to shift the focus to be a team really supporting the growth, really focusing on the revenue increase, or increasing the productivity of the sales team, increasing the productivity of the marketing team. So in this way, it's super aligned to what's the whole goal of the company, right?
100%. Like I would always want RevOps to, in the same way I would want sales and also outbound to be focused on revenue, I'd want RevOps to also have that same goal in mind, because that means that the things they're holding everyone else accountable to are the things that really matter. And then also when it comes to prioritization of resource, time, etc., that's all aligned as well. And I think ultimately that is the best way to get a go-to-market organization all like swimming in the same direction.
Sure. Cool. And maybe you have seen, and now that you are seeing different projects, companies, etc., you see when you arrive to a company, and especially when they are growing very fast, is that their systems also breaks because they are super complex. They have a lot of possibilities, even possibilities that never happen, or that someone say, okay, why we go to this path if this one person requests this, etc. No, so many times it's super complex, the whole system, and at the end that also supports that the system breaks at the end, right? So in this case, if you could mention, if we can go for simplification, what will be like the point that you will focus on simplifying in the whole sales cycle and customer journey system?
Yeah, I think like what's interesting is in these sort of scale ups is what you get is you're building on found like people have built on something that was made at a time of growth when it was a certain way and that worked for them at that stage. And then another team have come in and built on top of it, and then someone else has built on top of it. And again, often in silos. So sales wanted X, Y, and Z way of managing pipeline, and actually marketing might have had a different tool or you know market or even marketing operating system to sales that actually they weren't talking together. I've seen that a lot. And so they've built in a completely different way as well. And so what you're having to do is then to bring everyone back together in order to be completely aligned and driving to the right outcomes is you have to unravel a lot of what has been like the foundations that have been created and built on top of. And I think the best way to do this is it is like a blank whiteboard exercise. It's like starting almost from scratch and starting again and thinking through, like, in the perfect world, what does our customer journey, our prospect journey look like? Um, and that's across every single touch point, whether it be sales or marketing. What pieces of data do we need as what to gather from there? Where can we get that data from today? Where would we like it to be coming from? And then, like, when you have that full picture is when it becomes very clear to I think is when it starts to become very clear, the opportunities to actually start to make that a lot more efficient, whether it be, like, consolidating the tool stack, as well as the process behind it, et cetera, et cetera. And it's often when, like, we would wanna bring in, like, teams like Viquo, as well, because you got I think the great benefit of working with that type of kind of consultancy is that you've seen all sorts of systems and all sorts of processes. And so I always say to any company I'm working with, like, don't worry about how it's gonna be done. Just think about what you want, and then, like, the how
Precisely.
we can tackle later. Like, what is it you wanna see? How do you want it to work? And let's just make sure that's super clear. And then the actual I like to say, the actual making that happen and becoming a thing is where that's where we bring someone like you in, and that's like obviously the doing part afterwards. So it's a blank whiteboard, kind of set everything aside and start again, because you can't unwind building on top of all of this kind of fractional foundation. It's just not going to work really.
Yeah, yeah. And this is normally, or not normally, but many times what we do. We when we see super complex systems, we say, okay, let's start from zero. Let's think of everything that needs to happen, and then we sometimes propose this completely new system. And I think maybe I will go super basic, but it's something that we see many times missing in the companies. It's documentation. If you define a process, you decide to go in one direction with some setup, etc. Always document what you have in place, and also why you have decided that, because that will help a lot, as you say, when there will be new team members joining the company, or new decision makers. It will help you understand these teams, these new team members, why we have decided to go in this direction, and also many times why it has been changed in this way, right?
Definitely.
Cool. Let's enter in a hot topic, AI. So do you see, with your experience and what you see in the different scale ups, do you see AI really supporting revenue, or do you see it more like a noise, or a nice feature that many times is not correctly used to generate revenue, in fact?
Look, I think with AI, there's no doubt that it absolutely has a role in speeding up kind of analysis, for example, and data evaluation that used to take, weeks or a week at least for individuals in the organization to do. But what I think people are missing about it is that it's still very important that you get human review as part of the process, where you are relying on and implementing AI to kind of support whatever it is that you're doing. Um, and I think the benefit is that it can deal with these huge quantities of data in a fraction of the time that would have taken before. Um, but where companies maybe aren't then doing the next and final and maybe most important step is spending that time with a kind of human review and context. And that's like the most critical element in order to make sure that the data that you're then acting on or using to inform decisions is really kind of has taken into account the nuance, the complexity of any business and organization, and also your
Yeah.
goals, etc. I think also what's happening is that AI is being adopted in quite like a siloed application and use case across the organization. So, where you would ideally have kind of a go-to-market organization and function that has AI foundations being built across like the whole spectrum, you actually just got pockets of AI application and AI use cases. And that means you're not really benefiting from that like joined up efficiency and knowledge that can help um, drive forward like more effective go to market. It might be helping with individual tasks and individual workflows, but it's not being implemented in like an org-wide process. And I think it's because organizations seem to be really slow at kind of implementing that organization training policy org-wide kind of system. I think we probably just don't really know where to start. And so,
Mm.
you know, as individuals, we all know we need to be using AI, and we want to be, and we know that it can help both make us better in our roles, but also more efficient. And so people are doing that, and that's great. But I think it is breaking down because it's not being kind of consolidated in a company-wide initiative. And so they're kind of missing that real efficiency gain that it would give them if they did, again, kind of maybe do a blank whiteboard approach to, okay, what are we going, when it comes to AI, where do we believe it can most benefit us? What are we going to do about it? How are we going to apply that into the structure and the organization? Who's responsible for it? And thinking it through in a more kind of holistic manner. So I think those are like the two areas that I'm seeing pretty much time and time again where maybe the opportunity isn't being utilized as well as it could be.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I think it has to have concrete KPIs on their implementation. It can be improving the productivity, for example, for sales team, as you were saying, one of the things that we see more and more is the usage of AI signals, which are great because that maybe before used to take a lot of time of the salespeople just to investigate about the company and have a summary of the company before calling the people of this company. It's something that we can do like in 2 seconds right now. However, it's always I feel also that also it's connected with what you said. We need to contrast this information and really say, okay, is it really something that it's uh, a reality, or is it really something that is helping me to close faster my deals? Because many times we trust a lot on this information, but we need also the team that is implementing this type of processes to generate or to summarize the accounts, for example, or to research the accounts, need to understand what is the outcome that the sales team had to say, okay, yes, deals are closing faster, and we have less time of the salespeople doing the research. But what is the outcome in terms of velocity? What is the outcome in terms of conversion? Even to reduce maybe the low quality deals that sales don't even need to treat because they are not going to be relevant. And before they had to call just to understand that at the end they were not relevant, right? So it's something that we can understand if we can get with AI, and also to see if the tools are the right one in order to really see that the information that we are getting from AI makes sense or no.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point because otherwise what you're going to get is more noise as well. So yes, you can get this information faster and more quickly now and it's more readily available, but suddenly you can overwhelm your reps and actually that's not what we want. We want it to be like improving the outcome ultimately. If it's not improving the outcome, then it's not actually benefiting us. So yeah, I think that's a great point.
Cool. Perfect. So maybe some of the last questions. One that I have is if we can say, okay, where are the opportunities for growth in as from the marketing perspective? Where do you see more opportunities for supporting the growth? Is it in the conversion of prospects to customers? Is it in the retention? Is it in the expansion of the existing customers? Or do you see that marketers should take advantage of the opportunities in order to support the growth?
Yeah, so this is what I sort of touched on earlier, that I've always been a big believer in that the plumbing of a funnel or the marketing engine, whatever you want to call it, the full kind of pipeline exercise or customer journey, there is always and without doubt gains to be made by improving the efficiency. And that will be at every single stage. So the key is actually understanding like which of those stages is causing the greatest pain or issues, and represents your best opportunity to focus on right now. Um, when I think about how we have taken this approach before, it's like a constant iteration. So we always want to be optimizing when it comes to how we manage the different stages of the pipeline and improving conversion rates across them. So, things that you can do or test or iterate on, but we implemented were, okay, we want to move, especially like now we know we're living in a world where our prospects and customers expect a better quality of service. It should be more automated. So, for example, we wanted to make AE routing. We wanted to take away the kind of the SDR step from our best quality prospects and actually directly route them to the AEs. Now that was a whole experiment that we kicked off, and what we found was within that cohort of our best fit kind of prospects and accounts, and with direct AE routing, we were able to like double and improve the conversion rate by double, and that was huge. That's a massive growth lever. So these types of experiments and initiatives are well worth running. The other thing, like other aspect to look at, is how can you filter out noise? So like how can you build more automation for the low quality stuff that comes in? I mean, the world is kind of your oyster now in terms of like what you can do there, and you should be taking like a lot of um yeah, take that and ensure that you can have the actual people focused on the things that really matter. And ultimately, the other place that we saw a lot of opportunity and potential was supporting sales within the pipeline stage and the opportunity stages, and working on identifying and not super broad, but being really focused about what are those opportunities that we should be ensuring we can align on and both increase the conversion rate to close won revenue, but also the velocity of that as well. So I think across that like pipeline and funnel, you're going to have a huge amount of potential experiments and iterations you could run, and you could almost like do this in a sprint kind of methodology, list them out, the impact, the level of difficulty it would be to kind of execute on them, and have a cross-functional team responsible for that, and importantly tying it back to measuring the outcomes of each of those experiments. So that's how I would sort of be approaching it, but I just always believe there is opportunity in the plumbing.
Yes, for sure. Cool. I think we got very good tips and ideas for opportunities for growth during 2026. So hopefully everyone, anyway, we are going to summarize this all the conversation in one blog post. Thank you again, Alice, for everything that you have shared, and thank you for all the tips. It was super interesting, and I think we have learned a lot. And thank you everyone for joining today.